Hi everyone, it is me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is someone I guess I've had before. I guess I like having here on the show. It's my pleasure to introduce Cameron Whitten. Welcome again to Team Racing.
Good morning, good afternoon. It's a
Yes,
bi-coastal greeting.
the bi-coastal greeting. There we go. It's afternoon here. It's morning there. Tell me, how is it over there on the West Coast right now?
Well, we are in the middle of a global pandemic. We
Yeah.
are in the middle of chaos. We're in the middle of fighting for survival. But I do believe that this is a time for us as a community to channel our resilience and to believe that we can demand better.
Definitely, and that resilience is important. And of course, the Black Resilience Fund. Let's talk about that. Tell me what inspired it, and how is that going? How is it going, and what are the goals for the Black Resilience Fund?
The Black Resilience Fund has a goal to foster healing and resilience in our community in Portland. The Black Resilience Fund was launched on June 1st, and it was launched in direct response to the murder of George Floyd. When I first saw George Floyd's murder, I braced myself. I've been a Black Lives Matter activist since Black Lives Matter. This was not the first time that we heard "I can't breathe." This was not the first time we saw a Black man's life taken over agonizing minutes on camera and spread across the entire world. To me, there was nothing new about this moment. And so I braced myself when I saw the headlines, when I saw the video, because I did not expect anything to change. Of course, the hashtags and the memes, maybe a rally or two, and of course, the never-ending thoughts and prayers. But eventually the headlines would fade, the outrage would die down, and nothing would change. But very quickly, I actually saw the paradigm shift. I was flooded, inundated by text messages, phone calls, emails from white Portlanders, my friends, who were asking me, like, how are you doing? How can I support you? Are you okay? Personally. And that never happened before. With all of the advocacy that I've done over the years, never had gotten that many messages where I almost turned my phone off because it was so confusing and there were so many messages coming in at once. I have a lot of privilege and I was doing relatively okay. So I knew I did not need their support, but I know so many Black Portlanders, my friends, who do not have that kind of attention, who do not have that support. And so my background is as a nonprofit executive, advocating for our most vulnerable, raising awareness of folks that we together can provide support for. And so the Sunday after George Floyd's murder, I went to Facebook and I posted a very brief Facebook post. My goal was to take care of some of my Black friends. And so I said, we've all just survived a long, painful week. That's the extension of a year that's challenged all of us to our core. While we must demand systemic change, we can also make an immediate impact in the lives of our neighbors. So for my Black siblings, do you need a warm meal? Do you need groceries? Do you need a bill paid? Reach out to me and we will find you some resources. For my non-Black siblings, if you have anything to spare, please contact me and we will get to work together. Really, I expected to maybe raise $5,000 over 2 days' time. But what ended up happening was I was rooted to my kitchen table on my phone in this marathon session, just texting back and forth with folks who needed money, folks who needed to give money. And within 11 hours, we raised $11,000.
Wow.
By the next day, we launched the GoFundMe and the Black Resilience Fund was born. By the end of that first day, we had raised over $55,000. By the end of the next day, we raised $155,000. And by 28 days, in Little Portland, Oregon, we raised over $1 million to provide immediate relief to our neighbors.
That is phenomenal. And you have been an activist for quite a long time. You've been doing racial activism, LGBTQ activism, and so this is just the next step within that. This is, almost the natural evolution of that, to do that. And this fund is so important. Tell me how, because this is a very, very crazy time. You're also running for office. Like, there's just so much going on, and I know that within 2020, it's just so much. How has this affected you personally?
Yeah.
Trying to juggle and handle all of this together.
Yeah. Well, I didn't win the election.
Mm-hmm.
We had
Yeah.
a primary on May 19th,
Mm-hmm.
and we had two qualified Black candidates in that primary, neither of whom went to the runoff. We lived in White Portland, and it was challenging. It was a moment for me to think, what's next? I'm no longer running for office. I left my job March 1st, before the pandemic hit, to focus on running for office. Our campaign was a grassroots campaign that was completely paralyzed by the stay-at-home order, as it should have been.
Yes.
But everything that I know as a community organizer, that's going out to the streets, meeting people, all the things that I've done for years, wasn't able to do anymore. And then George Floyd happened.
Yeah.
And, a lot of folks are asking, well, why now? Why is the reaction so differently now? I can't answer that question. I am not a white American. Yeah. Every time that we have seen an assault upon Black communities, Black folks have shown up for every instance, whether that is people being murdered by the police, our schools failing, the prison industrial complex, housing injustice. We have shown up and we have vocalized. We've always been dismissed. The thing that is different right now is that white Americans are finally realizing that their privilege is so powerful that they don't see their own neighbors suffering. Yes. I don't know why George Floyd was different, but it was. And so for the past 3 months, we have been focused on solutions. We've been focused on the fact that now that we are ready to do the work, how do we make that happen together? And so we've raised about $1.5 million since June 1st, with over 15,000 people who have supported. We've also advocated for systemic change. We used our tiny pool of resources to organize BRF recipients to write letters to our state legislature and help to pass the Oregon Cares Fund, which was a historic $62 million targeted investment supporting Black Oregonians statewide. And so we are going to continue to use this platform to mobilize in our community, provide immediate resources to Black folks who need it, and also advocate for systemic change so we never face this crisis again.
Of course. I mean, this crisis is something we've been dealing with forever. You know what I mean? It's a centuries-old crisis, and we've come to a crossroads at this point. And it's really just amazing to see, what you're doing, still fighting the good fight, still doing that work here in the community, and Portland. Tell me about the racial makeup of Portland, because I've never been.
It's 77% white. It is the whitest major city in the United States. Wow. And Oregon was originally founded to be a white-only utopia. It was voted by a vast majority into our state constitution that if you were a Negro, if you were a Chinaman, if you were a mulatto, you were not allowed in Oregon. And so that has continued to impact Oregon's demographics to this day. Even after that was taken out of our constitution about 100 years ago, that was succeeded by Jim Crow. It was succeeded by housing discrimination, around job discrimination. Even if you were Black, you couldn't get a job. Even with the constitutional amendment gone, you couldn't get a job. You couldn't find permanent housing. And then when we finally had a community here, a cohesive place, the heart for Portland's Black community, that was completely wiped away by gentrification and displacement. And so it's a different dynamic. In other cities with more diversity, you still see these enclaves that you can have little Africas, little Mexicos. Portland, that doesn't exist because when gentrification happened, people were dispersed. We lost the political power that many communities have with geographic proximity. And so with all the issues of race, it's been hard to make any progress because we're not able to elect people within a specifically Black district to the state legislature, to Multnomah County. And that's the reason why the work that I've done has been around how can we leverage our resources to build community. That's why the Black Resilience Fund, we're not just about giving money. When a Black Portlander applies to the fund, they're interviewed by one of their peers, a Black Portlander. When somebody is going to their house to give them a check, that is a Black Portlander. So here we are in the middle of a pandemic. Here we are with a community that has suffered through gentrification, who is suffering through ongoing systemic injustices, who are experiencing high levels of stress and isolation. And we've created this vehicle for us to build community in a way that we haven't before. And so we don't think it's too late. We don't think that gentrification has devastated our Black community. It has given us an opportunity to organize and reverse the impacts of systemic injustice. We're here saying that it is possible, and please, please work with us.
Definitely. And speaking of asking them to work with you, I want you to tell our viewers how they can donate to the Black Resilience Fund, how they can support in any way they can, and how they can keep up with you and see what you're doing.
Yes, we are asking for folks to give generously. We currently have an anonymous donor who's matching up to $30,000, dollar for dollar, every donation till the end of the day Saturday. So please make a gift. Anything from $5 to $100 is powerful. You can go make a donation straight on our website, which is blackresiliencefund.com.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cameron. And thanks once again for joining us here at Team Racine. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. You are a miracle of life.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No, that has made my day. Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone. Bye, Cameron.
Bye.